What foreigners need to know before living in Korea for about 1 year. Living in Korea for about 1 year requires more preparation than taking a short trip. A visitor who plans to stay for many months should think not only about flights and sightseeing, but also about visa status, housing, health insurance, banking, communication, and daily life systems. If these things are prepared in advance, living in Korea can be much smoother and more comfortable. The first and most important step is getting the right visa. A person who wants to live in Korea for around 1 year usually cannot rely on a simple tourist plan. The Korean visa portal officially provides a visa navigator that sorts visa options by country, purpose of entry, and length of stay, including options for study, work, investment, family stay, and working holiday. In other words, the correct visa depends on why the person wants to stay in Korea. If someone plans to study, work, teach, or stay with family, that person should not assume that any long stay is automatically allowed. It is especially important not to assume that a tourist entry or visa-free entry automatically allows work. Before buying long-term plane tickets and signing any rental contract, the person should first confirm the visa category and activities allowed under that status. If you will stay more than 90 days, registration becomes a major issue. According to the Seoul Metropolitan Government's Foreign Resident Information, a foreign national who intends to stay in Korea for more than 90 days must complete foreigner registration within 90 days of entry, unless exempted. Hi Korea is the official government portal that handles immigration services such as visit reservations, e-applications, office lookup, expiry date checks, and resident card validity checks. For practical life in Korea, this registration matters a great deal. Without proper registration, daily tasks such as opening some financial services, arranging long-term mobile service, providing legal stay, or completing certain administrative procedures can become much more difficult. A foreign resident should also pay attention to address-related reporting obligations after moving. Official immigration-related forms and legal materials indicate that when residence changes, reporting must be made within 14 days. So if someone changes apartments after arriving in Korea, the move is not only a housing issue, but also an immigration reporting issue. Housing in Korea requires caution, especially because of deposits. One of the biggest surprises for many foreigners is Korea's rental system. In Korea, housing often involves a large deposit, and this can be much more important than people expect if they are used to other countries' rental systems. Before signing a contract, a foreign resident should make sure the contract terms are clearly understood, including the deposit amount, rent, maintenance fees, move-in date, contract period, and refund conditions. This is not a small detail. The The Seoul Foreign Resident Center specifically warns that if a landlord does not return the deposit after the contract ends, moving out too early can cause the tenant to lose important legal protection and priority rights. The same official guidance also recommends tools such as certified mail, leasehold right registration orders, and lease deposit return guarantees through SGI and HUG. For that reason, foreigners planning to stay for 1 year should be very careful before paying a large housing deposit. It is wise to avoid signing anything that you do not fully understand, and, if possible, get help from a trusted Korean speaker, a professional agent, or a foreign resident support center. Health insurance is not optional for many long-term residents. Many foreigners think they can simply stay in Korea and use travel insurance for everything. However, the National Health Insurance Service states that foreigners and overseas Koreans who stay in Korea for over 6 months are subject to mandatory subscription to health insurance in many cases, and foreigners working at an insured workplace are compulsory subscribed as employee-insured persons. The exact rules depend on visa type and personal situation, and the official NHIS guidance lists the eligible visa categories and certain exclusion conditions. For someone planning a 1-year stay, this means medical planning should be done before arrival, not after a problem occurs. You should check whether you will be enrolled through an employer, whether you will later join as a self-employed insured person, and what documents you will need. There is another practical point as well. Seoul's Foreign Resident Information notes that hospitals and clinics require identity verification, so bringing ID matters. So, a long-term resident should get used to carrying proper identification, especially for medical visits and administrative procedures. Money, banking, and daily payments should be arranged early. Daily life in Korea is highly digital, and payment systems are very convenient, but that convenience works best after the basic setup is finished. The Seoul Metropolitan Government explains that a resident foreigner can open a bank account by visiting a bank, and the commonly required documents include a passport and a foreigner registration certificate. The same official page says banks normally operate Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This means a foreign resident should not wait until the last minute to sort out banking. A bank account becomes useful not only for saving money, but also for rent, bills, transfers, refunds, and sometimes phone and app services. Korea also widely accepts credit cards, but not every foreign resident immediately qualifies for a Korean credit card because banks and card issuers can require documents and assess credit status. So a newcomer should be prepared to rely first on cash, debit, or an overseas card until local banking becomes stable. Phone service and internet are essential for daily life in Korea. In Korea, a phone number is not just for calls. It is often important for messaging, reservations, deliveries, account verification, and many everyday services. The Seoul Metropolitan Government's Communication Guide says that major mobile carriers include KT, LGU+, and SK Telecom, and that opening service generally requires a passport or a foreign registration card by visiting a carrier store. This is one reason why immigration registration and phone service are closely connected in real life. A one-year resident should think ahead about whether to use roaming on temporary SIM or a longer-term local plan. For basic infrastructure, Korea uses 220 volts at 60 Hz with 2 round holes in the outlet, so devices from some countries may need an adapter or voltage compatibility check. Transportation is excellent, but you need to learn the system properly. Korea, especially Seoul, has very convenient public transportation, and this is one of the easiest parts of life to adapt to. According to Seoul's official transportation guide, transportation cards such as T-Money and Cashb can be purchased at convenience stores and subway stations, and they're used for buses, subways, taxis, and more. The same guide explains that on buses, passengers usually enter through the front door and exit through the back door, tapping the transportation card both when boarding and when getting off in order to receive proper transfer treatment. This may sound simple, but learning it matters because it affects both convenience and fare discounts. A long-term resident should also learn how to use route apps such as Naver Map or Kakao Map because daily life becomes much easier once public transport is fully understood. Working in Korea is a visa issue first, not just a job search issue. Some foreigners assume that after arriving in Korea, they can simply find part-time work or freelance work and start earning money. That assumption can be dangerous. The legal ability to work depends on the status of stay and the activities allowed under that status, and Hi Korea even provides an official service to check whether employment is possible. If the plan is to live in Korea for a year and also earn money, this should be planned from the beginning at the visa stage. It is not wise to assume that informal work will be acceptable just because it is easy to find. Daily life rules can be surprisingly important. Long-term living is different from traveling because small routines matter more. For example, Seoul's Living Guide explains that trash must be sorted into categories such as general waste, food waste, and recyclables. A foreign resident who ignores local waste rules may quickly create problems with neighbors or building management. Noise is another issue. In Korea, apartment living is common, and noise between floors or late-night noise can become a serious source of conflict. This means that being polite in shared housing and apartment buildings is not just a cultural preference, but a practical necessity. Safety is generally good, but you should still know emergency systems. Korea is generally considered a convenient and relatively safe place to live, but long-term residents should still know where to ask for help. Seoul's official safety materials list 119 for fire, emergency and rescue, 112 for police, 1330 for tourism information and complaints, and 120 for the Dasan call center. Hi Korea also publicizes the 1345 Immigration Contact Center for foreigners, including overseas inquiry numbers. For a one-year stay, saving these numbers in your phone is a very practical habit. You should prepare emotionally and practically for language gaps. It is possible to live in Korea with limited Korean, especially in large cities, but life becomes much easier if you learn basic Korean before arrival. Simple Korean helps with hospitals, delivery services, taxi rides, government offices, banking, restaurants, and housing conversations. Even if official websites and some services offer English, daily life often moves faster in Korean. So a foreigner planning to stay for 1 year should not think only about legal documents, but also about communication skills. One practical warning: be careful with fake and unofficial websites. Hi Korea recently warned users about fake websites pretending to be official e-arrival card service, and it explicitly states that the official e-arrival card site is the government site and that the service is free. This warning matters beyond arrival cards. When preparing a one-year stay, foreigners often search for visa help, housing help, SIM cards, and administrative services online, and unofficial services may charge unnecessary fees or give incorrect guidance. So it is safest to begin with official portals such as Visa Portal, Hi Korea, NHIS, or major local government foreign residence centers. In conclusion, if a foreigner wants to live in Korea for about 1 year, the most important things to prepare are the correct visa, timely registration, careful housing arrangements, health insurance planning, banking, phone service, and a basic understanding of daily rules. The biggest mistakes are usually not dramatic mistakes, but ordinary ones. Choosing the wrong visa, signing a housing contract without understanding it, ignoring registration deadlines, or assuming that daily life will be easy without preparation. If these areas are handled carefully, living in Korea for 1 year can be not only possible, but also rewarding, comfortable, and memorable.